Good morning and welcome everyone to Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center podcast where we talk about spiritual subject matters in a practical way and have conversations about how we can bring these teachings into our daily lives. I am here with co-host Achyuta Gopi, tri-host Dayal Gauranga, and our sweet studio audience, Zoom studio audience that join us every day from all over the world. Welcome, everyone. How are you doing today, Achyuta?
I'm well. It's sunny. It's a Friday. Feels nice.
Feels good. Feels good. How about you, Dayal?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Love you guys. Happy.
Amazing. I am also doing well. I woke up really early this morning, went to the gym, got a drill bit, built some hardware. I'm feeling very accomplished. We'll see if I actually build a piece of furniture. We'll see.
What's amazing is you did all that before 9 a.m.
Yes, I did.
That's number one. And number two, my neighbors would complain about it all. They would just.
Oh, Krishna. Yesterday we were talking about so many beautiful things around judgment, around love, around how we're all seeking for love. But Achyuta, you said you have a quote that relates to all of this that we've been talking about all week that you'd like to read.
Yeah. This quote is from a book called Spiritual Warrior by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami, who was a really, really cool dude. And at the very beginning of this book, he speaks about this material world that we are constantly talking about as a school of love, and about how we are all students, all really dealing with various degrees of giving and receiving love, or appreciating love, and really having this love in our lives. And one quote that I really thought was kind of cool is he says, "To the degree that we focus on the body, we can change the school of love into a prison." And normally we start off hearing about this material world place as the prison, instead of seeing it with its potential for being this place of learning. And the more that we focus on this embodied existence, the more it seems that we change what would or could be the opportunity for such a beautiful experience into a prison-like experience where we feel trapped, captured, and bound up. And so I thought that was a really cool place to jumpstart.
I feel captured and bound up. Free me, Kishore. Free me. Free me.
They actually have laxatives to help people.
Happy Friday, everyone.
It's like you can fix that with a little trip to the pharmacy over the counter.
Oh my god.
Jeff was gonna say Keopectate. What is
Kaopectate? It's an over-the-counter medicine. It'll help for you also.
Oh my god. I mean, I do think that a lot of people are really angry because they have bad digestion. That I will. I do think so. I do think because they're bound up. They can't.
Is this where you're hoping this would go, Achyuta?
Yes, actually, no.
This Bhakti Tirtha Swami talked about Keopectate and prunes.
there's a part in the Disney movie Tarzan, and there's an elephant. He's talking to Tarzan, talking to the gorilla, and it's like, finally, it's like, you know what? I'm just so sick and tired of your emotional constipation. And I really feel like, I agree. I agree, Kishore. Emotionally, spiritually,
Wait.
physically.
We're getting somewhere with this. We're getting somewhere with this.
We are.
Emotional constipation. Because the whole point that you were making, or that Bhakti Tirtha Swami was making, is that when we try to release emotional constipation with the body, it might not necessarily go, especially with love. especially with love, because I think love is one of these things that's such a complex spiritual experience, and we're trying to like fit it into like my body, into your body. I'm trying to like understand love in this like physical domain, and I'm trying to like get that love out of you and out of myself and like squeeze it out. And it's like it transcends the body, and therefore whatever I try to do, you know, whether it's, what was it, Keopectate?
Keopectate. That name is seared into my mind.
Or like, or you know, because we're trying all these different things, whether they be going to the gym and getting like a super hot bod, whether it be like going to the club, whether it be, you know, trying to, you know, do all these different things that we're trying to get out of this body or mold the body into something. You know, we're all just looking for love, but love is such a transcendental experience that we're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna be able to, no matter how much we squeeze, we're not gonna be able to figure it out through just this body.
Yeah.
Martha wrote, so full of it. You're so full of it. Yes, that's the problem. I'm trying to.
Problem.
That's the problem.
And I feel like, especially in spiritual circles, love can get a bit of a bad reputation. We think of it as this, there's like a spiritual love and then a material love, and the two can somehow never coexist or coincide with one another. And I think that that is not a great thing. It's not a good like ideology to base our lives off of. When we think about bhakti yoga, we constantly are hearing about this perverted reflection. We are living in this perverted reflection. We've got like this distorted mirror, and we are currently taking that as our reality. My problem is when that comes in, when we're having loving relationships with each other, and then people say things like, oh, that's just a perverted reflection. What you should really be focusing on is Krishna. What you should really be focusing on is God. And that's brought in so many problems for people trying to have relationships and continue to be spiritually minded. This idea that if I'm engaging with someone in a material body, then it can only be the perverted reflection, when really, actually, what it should be is, it's like, do you see these connections that you're having here? One, they're actually eternal. And two, it should be an encouragement. These really, really open and authentic versions of showing love and vulnerability can actually only get better when we focus on Krishna, in addition to focusing on each other. It shouldn't just be that it's the perverted reflection. You throw that part out the window and you only focus on the spiritual connection. They should join together. It shouldn't be just one or the other. It should be both. And so it elevates whatever this perverted reflection is into that spiritual experience. Ooh.
Yes. And I was just looking up the etymology of the word perverted.
I thought you were looking at the etymology of the word Keopectate.
Because I think when we hear the word perverted, we get...
That's what I've been doing.
I wonder if we could get them to sponsor this episode.
This episode sponsored by Keopectate.
I've never heard of Keopectate.
Keopectate stock soared suddenly on July 1st.
We're gonna
all eight listeners went out and bought a bottle.
At the Bhakti Center reception, we'll have instead of the books, we'll just have Keopectate.
You can give it to them in their little welcome packages.
We have a gift for you. We have a free Bhagavad Gita, Mahaprasad, and some Keopectate to help it out. Please give a donation, have dinner, and take some Keopectate on your way out. Jeffrey wrote, to the extent we are attempting to express love with the body, we are bound to frustration, driven by an attempt to express the unlimited with the finite. Martha said, the purest of love comes from our connection with the Supreme, loving each other, loving ourselves, loving all. And Kishore, you were going to say something, I think.
I was just going to say that sometimes...
You were looking up the etymology of perverted.
Yeah, because sometimes when we hear the word perverted, it has some like connotations of just like really gross and yucky, like, ooh, it's perverted, or that person's a pervert. And actually, it means to thoroughly turn over, thoroughly flip, right? Verter in Spanish and in other Latin languages, it literally means to turn or to turn over. And then per apparently means like thoroughly. So it just means like the
Yeah, it just means like it's upside down.
Like the banyan tree. Like the banyan
Yeah,
tree.
yeah.
banyan tree, or like Strange
Exactly like that.
Things, the upside down, for those of you that watch
Like
that.
Strange Things Upside Down World. Either one.
I remember wondering why that, why this analogy of this banyan tree was such a big deal. And then I started looking up banyan trees. Some of them are really freaky, like with the roots and the branches and the things, and it's really interesting, and really made me realize why this idea of this banyan tree with the roots that grow upward and the branches that grow downward and everything is flipped. And then if you were to see that in water, literally you would have no idea where one started and where one left off. And that's us with this spiritual versus material existence. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was once saying that the distance between the spiritual world and the material world is like the distance between one side of a veil and the other. That is it. There actually is no hardcore distance. It's about our perceptions.
I'm just looking at banyan trees now. They're so funky.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
Some of them are so weird.
Sorry, guys. I'm not contributing a lot. I'm just looking up the etymology of kaopectates and pictures of banyan trees. You lost me.
Oh, Krishna. I think it's really interesting though when the flip side of our spiritual potential starts to become. I really like what Jeff wrote. Like when we're trying to express love in the body, we're trying to like reach this eternal, unlimited place, this potential that we have inside of us, but through a finite form. And that causes a lot of problems, actually. It causes a lot of frustrations, anger, anxiety, all the things. It causes all the things. And I think relationship with others and with yourself is a really interesting place to look at that, because it's like, how much are we trying to let me see if I want to use this word, how much are we trying to or how much are we trying to get something from someone else for our pleasure? And the word that is exploit. It sounds like a strong word, but that's the word, right? Like there's no equal exchange. I just want this because it's going to make me whole, it's going to make me feel good, it's going to make me feel. And that's with others or with myself, because we can also have that kind of relationship where we're trying to wring the love out of this material body. It's like, I want this, I want this, I want this. But I think the biggest question, and that's why bhakti yoga is so fascinating and so interesting, is, well, what am I giving? Where is this exchange happening? What am I willing to do to get this thing that I want? And is the thing that I want really, is this really the best methodology to get it? Because I think, I can't remember if we were talking about this earlier this week. I think we were, about like the failures or the distresses being spiritual, right, in and of themselves, and not judging people for going through these hard moments, or not judging ourselves for not responding spiritually, or etc. And it's like those moments are so important, actually, because there are places for us to realize, usually, like, my attempt at getting love, or getting closer to God, or getting closer to spirit, didn't work. It didn't work. I went about it this way of like the body and the mind and the feelings and the anger and like whatever and all this stuff. And it's like, it didn't work. So then what are other methodologies? So those moments, I guess what I'm trying to say, are really important, because they remind us that, like, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And there's actually, and that when we get into bhakti yoga, it's a whole science. Bhakti yoga loves lists. There's lists and processes and steps, and it's just like all this beautiful stuff of from that point where you realize that it's not going to work in your old methods. Okay, let me try something else.
And I really love that you brought that up, because within Bhakti Yoga, it's not just, okay, that didn't work, let me try something else and throw out everything else. Bhakti Yoga is all about like, okay, well, that didn't work, we can try something else in moderation. Like Bhakti Yoga is so much about moderation. Maybe you don't throw everything else out. Maybe when you realize that finding love in a certain way hasn't worked, you don't throw everything out about it. You tweak, you recalibrate, you try and rebalance things. And I feel like Krishna is constantly trying to get Arjuna to rebalance and come into a space of like, are you balanced? Are you centered? Do you have doubts in this place, but you're okay in this place? Then we'll go over this again. Like he's saying, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to work it out with you. I'll re-explain the whole thing. But he doesn't just go through one thing. Spirituality is just one, unilaterally, one facet. It's so multifaceted that he goes through so many different areas of life. And it's like, well, you could find transcendence here. You could find it here. You could find it here. You could find it here. So I really like that idea that even if we are recalibrating and we're finding that some methodologies don't work for us, that doesn't mean that the whole thing should be shut down. We can figure things out in moderation. And I feel like we should bring back the age-old question, like when you'd go and date somebody. My parents were really old-fashioned, and when you'd go and you date somebody or whatever, they start asking, okay, what are your intentions? What are your intentions toward this person, this activity, this spiritual process? And I feel like we should bring that question back for ourselves. What are your intentions?
Go ahead, Kishore. You're going to say something?
I was just going to read what Martha wrote, but if you're going to say something.
It's always good to read what Martha wrote.
It's always good to read what Martha wrote. Martha wrote, so are we being spiritual to gain something else other than an unconditional relationship with the Supreme? Are we continuously wanting something? Is our spirituality truly honest? That's the question.
Desire can never be eliminated. So in one sense, we are always continuously wanting something. It's the nature of the soul to desire. The question is, how do we transform desire in a way that is in alignment with our eternal being? Our eternal being is to want Krishna's happiness. And the byproduct of wanting Krishna's happiness is that we also become happy because we're a part of Krishna. And so, and yes, we want to gain an unconditional relationship with the Supreme, but as we grow and transform spiritually, it becomes less about, I want that for my own happiness. It turns into, I want that because I want to offer myself to Krishna because I have an ability to enhance Krishna's happiness. And so we see ourselves as our life and our being becomes an offering. And therefore, everything we do is to make ourselves the best offering we can be.
That's that verse from 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever charity or austerity you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering unto me.
Whatever kaopectate you drink.
That's right. It's that simple, you know?
Krishna, forgive me. I did. That was very beautiful, Chita. Thank you. I'm sorry for what, defaming, for what's the word for
No, are you kidding?
desecrating your statement.
No way. We rolling right with it, okay?
We rolling right with it. It's interesting. I was looking up all those pictures of the banyan tree, and one of the most funky pictures was actually connected to the Wikipedia page. And I looked up the Wikipedia page, and there's all these. The banyan tree is the national tree of India, according to Wikipedia, and it's mentions in religion, and it mentions this verse in the Gita in the Wikipedia page of banyan tree, And it mentions this first verse of the 15th chapter. It says, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and the Vedic hymns are its leaves. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. That's Prabhupada's translation. And then it mentions here the material world is described as a tree whose roots are upwards and branches are below. We have experience of a tree whose roots are upward. If one stands on the bank of a river or any reservoir of water, they can see that the tree is reflected in the water upside down. The branches go downward and roots upward. Similarly, the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. The material world is but a shadow of reality. In the shadow, there is no reality or substance, but from the shadow, we can understand there is substance and reality. It's from Wikipedia. And I appreciate, as you were saying, Achita, that normally when I think of that analogy, I think of just kind of like a normal tree reflected in a river. Like, okay, you see the roots up and the branches down. But with the banyan tree, it's actually so complex. It's just this like if you look up these pictures of these really old and funky banyan trees, and I think it gave this visceral experience of being in the material world. Like, I don't know what's up or down anymore. And it's kind of where Arjuna starts in the Bhagavad Gita, like, I don't know what's up or down anymore. And it's almost kind of like we don't even know. I think part of the material illusion is like, I don't even know what's good for me anymore. I don't even know like what's and the word that was coming to my mind, and I was writing about this yesterday, was the word discernment, and being able to discern what's good for me or what's not. And the verse in the Gita where Krishna mentions that the mind can be the best friend or the worst of enemies to the living entity. And I think that the worst enemy of the mind is when we think that things that are bad for us are actually good for us. And we spend time and energy investment, or people that are good for us are not, our, etc. And when the mind is the best of friends, it becomes this tool of discernment to know what actually brings me closer to my true self. And so I think that, in the concept of love, or in the concept of desire, even as Marta was mentioning, it's like, and you, I think at one point said this phrase that you just like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Did you say that, or did I read that on Wikipedia and project that onto you?
That was the mood.
That was the mood. And so this sense of like, okay, can I use the power of healthy discernment to understand what here needs to get cut out or removed, or I can let go of, and what actually do I need to hold on to or keep or preserve or save or make sacred. And I think that this tool of discernment gets lost a lot in spiritual life, because we either become so detached that nothing matters, or whatever it might be. But actually, we think I'm not supposed to judge, which we shouldn't judge or condemn, but we do have to keep discernment. Otherwise, we're just staring at this banyan tree and we have no idea what's up. That's my takeaway.
Well, we are running fresh out. And I was also just looking at pictures of banyan trees, and they are quite funky and disorienting.
They are. They're a little bit off-putting too. Like the more network of it looks like caves, and I don't know what the heck is in there, and it's really something else.
We will go to our expert taker away, Kimberly, and so she can share some takeaways. And if anyone else has any takeaways, please put them in the chat.
Thank you. So today we're taking away to release emotional constipation by seeing the material world as a place of learning.
Always hits the nail on the head.
And the last takeaway was to rebalance in moderation, have healthy discernment, and make yourself the best offering you can be for Krishna.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Achyuta, any takeaways from you?
Yeah, that discernment, that really looking at that banyan tree and really examining that network of branches, and then understanding that I don't have to understand it all on my own. Like I don't have to work through this confusing network of branches and roots on my own. I have help.
Mm,
What about you?
beautiful.
Daya?
We're asking for my takeaway.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I already gave my takeaway.
Oh, that,
My takeaway is to buy kaopectate. I thought that was obvious.
I don't know if all of you saw, but Martha was holding a photo of Kaopectate.
She's like, I keep it on hand. I buy stock. My takeaway was the idea of more of a question of how can I use greater levels of healthy discernment in my life rather than just coasting through on autopilot.
And that is like the definition of spiritual probiotics.
Spiritual
Whoa,
probiotics.
all coming.
Okay.
Wow, this
All
is
about digestion, folks.
my takeaway is that you will always be disappointed if you try to solve spiritual and metaphysical issues and problems with material means. If you're trying to figure them out with material things, you will always be disappointed. Okie dokie, folks. That is our time for today. We keep it short and sweet. Thank you, Dayal. Thank you, Achyuta. Thank you, Martha and Kimberly and Jeffrey, Irenka, Rini, Lane, Rachna, and Lexi. Thank you all so much for being here. We will be taking the weekend off and we'll be back on Monday at 9 a.m. If you forgot, Doyal, Achyuta, and I are going to India in late September 25th, for 2 weeks, where we will be having kirtan and yoga and lots of talking about kaopectate and all these weird things.
We will bring some, you
We're
know.
gonna go. We're
Actually,
gonna
we
bring
should bring some. We should
Okay.
definitely.
You should definitely bring some. We're
Okay.
gonna go. We're gonna go to the origin of kaopectate. It's a special place outside of Delhi
If you're interested,
where they mine for the ingredients.
Have a little KO kata, you know.
There's a little temple there, and there's a temple and a bathroom.
we will, if you're interested in learning more about India, please reach out to us directly, send us an email, send us an Instagram message. Thank you all so much. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.